Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. It's been a week. Have you guys been doing your reps? I hope you guys have been studying your Katakana tables. So last week, if you were here, we went through all these tables. Here we went through A, I, U, E, O, Kakiku, Keiko, all the characters here. We went through them one by one, talked about stroke order, laughed at how bad my stroke order is at some of these, and we just talked about how to create some words and just all the basic properties of writing in Japanese, just writing out phonetically what words are in Japanese. We talked a little bit about katakana, I said katakana, our hiragana table is what I meant to say. We talked a little bit about katakana and kanji as well, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So, there's not too much I have to introduce, just we went through this. Let me pull out little pointer sun. We went through all the table here. We talked about those muddled sounds like ga, gi, gu, ge, go, za, da, ba, and pa. So we're going to apply similar topics today as we go through the katakana table. And remember, katakana is used for like loan words. So we'll talk about English words that we can create using Japanese syllables today. So we talked about some Japanese words we could use with the hiragana table. Today we're going to go through the katakana table and talk about some English words that we can create using the Japanese syllabary. So, I hope you guys have your pens ready, your tablets ready, your pencils ready, whatever it is you're using to write things down. Because again, like I said last time, it really does help if you are copying along, if you're writing things down, because I believe it does help a lot to help you remember things when you actually write them down physically. Typing things out just isn't as good. So let's get started. So let me just clear this all out. And here we have our... You think you still remember? Alright. So we'll just talk briefly about this. Just to do a little bit of a refresher. So, the Japanese language, and good to see you here, regular expression, is split into sort of two alphabets, or two... I forget what it's called, but they're not really alphabets as much as they are libraries of syllables. So you can see we have the sounds here, A, I, U, E, O, Kakiku, Keiko. So you can see the vowels line up with the consonant sounds, so sa, ta, na, ha, ma. And these are all used to create words, you know? We talked about some examples of words that we could create, like, say, if I write out, let me pull this up. If I were to use the characters, let me create a new layer here. Say I use the characters, let's say, shi, and this would be zu, ka. Shizuka is quiet, you know? We just put the syllables together as opposed to, say, English, where we put a bunch of characters together, and depending on how we combine our characters in English, that gives us those sounds. Here in Japan, the sounds are always consistent. A will always be pronounced as A, I will always be pronounced as I, U will always be pronounced as U, and so on. English and other languages, the syllables aren't always going to be consistent. Depending on how letters are placed next to each other, the sounds can change. But with Japanese, it's very consistent. So that's one good thing about the language there. One good thing about learning it is that once you learn how to read out all the characters, you're not going to have to learn any new readings for these characters. You'll see them and you know how to read them aloud. So, let's take a look at this katakana table now. You can see that we have it right here. I'll pull it up. And again, we're going to do the same thing that we did last time. It's a little redundant that I'm doing this since you can see the whole table now, but just to break it down easier, just to show everything that we need to see, let's do this. Let's just show this first. We'll break it down line by line. And the first set of characters, just like I did last time, we have our vowels. We have A, I, U, E, O. You can see we have the stroke order over here. So, we write it out. Let me use actually a better brush. A nicer looking brush. I was doing some stuff yesterday and I mixed up what brushes my pen was on. Let's go to the dry media defaults. Those look pretty nice. And let's use our graphite on a chalkboard. So we have the characters horizontal like that. This is A, E. We do a downward stroke like this, and then a second downward stroke like that. E, U. We do a downward stroke, a little small like that. Another downward stroke like this, and then U. That's U. E. We do a little horizontal, then a vertical, and horizontal. That's E. And then O. We go across, and down like this. And that's O. So here we have A, I, U, E, O. We compare them to the previous, to their versions in, I should say, hiragana. There's not really much of a similarity here. Like, the A's don't have much similarity here. The E, they're both 2 strokes, but the E is, like, very flat looking. The U here, it kind of has that curved part, but like an upwards branch instead of a sideways branch. The E doesn't really look similar at all. I guess if you squint hard enough, this zigzag here kind of looks like what we have here, but there's not too many similarities here. And also we have the character N. Let's just draw that in as well. What layer did I draw this on? Oh, I drew this on the wrong layer. We can see it goes like this. You go that small little raindrop, and then we go upwards like that. That's our And let me make sure I actually get this on a separate layer before I go too far. Let's do that. Don't want to mess up our layers immediately out of the gates. Let's A, I, U, E, O. And just thinking about Japanese syllabary, we could make an English word out of these syllables. We can make a word like, you know, the visual novel, very famous visual novel that came out in the middle. Would I say that stroke order holds? Oh, Hakun, thank you, welcome, thank you for the raid and welcome. I hope you're excited to learn some Japanese today. Stroke order, I would say stroke order is important. Mainly for me, I think it's because when I write it out, it just looks a lot neater. For things that I don't pay attention to stroke order as much, when I don't draw in the order that they expect you to draw in, I feel like my words come out a little bit sloppier. For your own personal reference, for your own note-taking, I don't think it's like that big of a deal, but I think it's just a good habit to get into writing in the stroke order, as I feel it tends to make your writing of the characters feel a little bit closer to the actual visual of the characters. Yeah, especially with kanji, because hiragana and katakana are a lot simpler, but once you get to kanji, there's a lot of times where I'll like kind of just get really lazy with the stroke order and then realize what I wrote was very illegible. So then I'll go back, look up the stroke order and be like, oh, that makes things get spaced out a lot better. So you can get away with like messing up the stroke order, I guess, if you're just doing it on your own. And I've seen my fair share of like artists on like Pixiv and stuff who they like draw stuff, they like write out the words, and sometimes it's like illegible, and I feel like that may or may not have been a case of just writing too fast or not using the stroke order, though not to backseat actual Japanese people writing in their fan art. It's just sometimes you see a word and it's like, Jisho, please help me, I can't even tell what strokes you use, what radicals are in this kanji because it's so sloppy. But even in English, some people just write so fast that you can't even tell what the characters they wrote were. So, let's take a look at a word that we can write here. Japanese, the way the syllables are is kind of weird. And thank you, I do love the monocle. It's fancy, it adds a little bit of class, you know? If we write out the word like wait, no, not, that's we don't want that. We could write out so we do our ea. This ends up being the English word. This ends up being the English word air. If you ever watched like the anime or read the manga Air Gear, this is how they actually spell out the word air. They don't use like the Japanese word for air, they just use Japanese pronunciation. Gia. Super fancy. And yeah, my English handwriting isn't the best either, though I feel like it comes out better on my tablet than it actually does like when I write on a board or write on paper. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm thinking harder about it with the tablet. But that's just one example of English words, ea. As we get through more of this table, we'll be able to make more complex words, or titles I could say even. So a simple word, using 2 vowels, ea. Let's move on to the next list. Ooh, and a regular expression. Thank you for following. Thank you for joining the classroom for another addition to the class roster. So here, yeah, sometimes it happens. Like, I'll follow someone on Twitter, and I'll see their streams, and then I realize, like, it'll be like several weeks, and I'm like, huh, that's why I never saw when they were live on Twitch. I wasn't following them. But thank you. Here we have the K's. We have Kakiku ke ko. So, ka. Ka, the Japanese, or the katakana, and the hiragana for ka are actually pretty similar. Because this is the katakana version, and the hiragana version pretty much looks the same, but also has that on top of it. So, ka. Ki. Ki is also pretty similar, in the sense that it has these 2 sort of horizontal strikes here, while the hiragana version of this looks like that, but then also has that at the bottom. So you will see some similarities, and what I would say is that sometimes those similarities will help. Like, if you can remember in one language and you know that it's similar in the other set of characters, that might help you out. That's ki. Ku? Ku is kind of similar to its hiragana equivalent, because this is ku in katakana, and this is it in hiragana. Your brain just failed you. It's alright. Is something wrong? Is there something you'd like me to repeat? Is there a little bit of an information overload? Let me know. This is ku. This is ke. Ku and ke look actually pretty similar. And then ko looks like this. Like an open box. Cool. So, as a usage, katakana, I know, right? I feel like a lot of people have that problem. Like, hiragana everyone gets down real easily. But then you get to katakana, and it's just, I think it's just the fact that you have to learn another set of characters for the same syllables really just trips people up. And I think it's just a matter of practicing. You also see katakana a lot less than hiragana, because again, katakana is mainly used for loan words, so obviously you're gonna see Japanese characters, Japanese words in the Japanese language more often. But I think it's important to make sure that you can read it for when it does come up. So, we have Kakiku ke ko, and remember, learning German was much easier than this. Yeah. German is a lot closer to English, too. German has a lot of similarities. I think thinking about learning German in the past for me, though, is just like, I think the thing that messed me up a lot, and I think it messes me up a lot just learning languages in general, the cases really just mess me up. I still, to this day, I'm gonna be honest, as someone who went to like the 5th year of German, I still never really had an understanding of like what the different cases were, like the nominative case, the accusative case, the dative case, the genitive case. I didn't really understand what that meant. I just went with it. So, yeah, that was my experience in German. So, again, we have these syllables here. Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. And remember, the K chart, if we use this symbol here, if we use this little symbol, let me just draw this. If we instead write this here, ka would become ga, ki would become gi, ku would become gu, ke would become ge, and ko would become go. So again, a lot of these sets, the K, let me actually highlight this. The K, S, T, and H characters all have alternate characters. It's funny that if you write about it wrong, it becomes, yeah. Like, because there are so many characters that are close to each other, or if you just forget to put the dakuten, that accent mark there, it completely changes the meaning, or makes it be complete nonsense, one or the other. So I think I just realized, let me do this again. One day I won't mess this up. What layer was I writing on? Yes, I was writing on this layer. Let me just make sure I'm on the right layer or on not the same layer, because that'll be a headache for later. So, with this, the Schwim Schwamm hat geschwommen and Ching Chong hat getrunken, I actually didn't have too much of a problem doing past tense conjugation with German. I actually kind of liked that. It was like, we always referred to them as like verb kickers, like wenn and or I think it was like den was like always made it so that your verb would get kicked to the end and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I always saw it as like had and then the verb for that kind of conjugation. I think it did take a while for that to settle in for me though. My first 3 years in German were like awful, and then I became like a star student the 4th year. Somehow like everything made sense to me, like everything just clicked out of nowhere. And I started acing all my tests, and then I went to college, and then it got hard again. So a word we can make with these new sets of characters, we have a, I, u, e, o, kakiku, keiko, ga, gigu, gego. So I've never actually watched this anime, but I know that there might be some mecha enjoyers here. We can write out ga, gao, gao, and then we do ga, ga, I, gao, gai. Never even watched this anime. I don't know why I'm referencing this one specifically. So the famous mecha anime, Gao Gai Ga, very manly, very hot-blooded anime from what I've heard. That's how we'd spell it out in katakana, and I'm pretty sure if you look up the title, if you look it up on like Wikipedia, the King of the Braids Gao Gai Gar, this is actually how that word is written out. It's just in katakana. That's really what it is, like words that are from English or words that just like don't exist at all. We just put it in katakana. Sometimes you'll see titles in katakana as well. Sometimes you might see like male names in katakana as well. There's a lot of circumstances, but like they're obviously not going to be frequent compared to hiragana. But again, it's just something that's important for you to get accustomed to, knowing that there's those two languages. Or not two languages, sorry, those two sets of characters. So next, we have the S's. Let me do this. Whoa, how did I open, what just happened? How did I go to the, how did I create a new desktop? What just happened there? That was strange, but okay. Alright, we're back. You know, this happened last stream as well, where I just like ended up like hitting Windows or something, and then like my entire desktop just all went away. Very scary moments. So then we have, let me get back to my brush. We have sa, shi, su, se, so. So sa. You go horizontal. And then down. And then down again. I always end up writing this one backwards, which again is another reason why stroke order is really important. Because things like that, if you forget the order of the character, you see we go horizontal. The left side has one stroke downwards. And the last stroke goes like this. That's sa. She, like I mentioned last week, she is a part of a series of other katakana that have all similar appearances. She goes like this. 1, 2, 3. This is she. Su. Horizontal, and then a curve downwards. And it gets a second leg here. Su. Se. You go like this. Se, and then so. You can see even so and she have similar looks, where so you just have only one curve, and then it goes downwards like that. It's a pain. It is a huge pain. And then, again, just like with the gaz, because the way these sounds relate, it's not random, and it's easy to think that, like, it's just another set of arbitrary letters. It's muddled sound, you know, like, think about holding your nose. I mentioned this last week. Like, ka, I could say ka, and I can say ka, which sounds like a ga. Kakiku keiko.
Kakiku keiko.
It makes it a lot closer to that G sound. Or like, sa, shi, su, se, so.
Sa, si, su, se, so.
It just, as weird as it is to pinch your nose, I feel like it gives you a better idea as to why it's romanized that way. So we have boop, boop, boop. We put that there, and this becomes za. We get, yeah. Shinsu-so. Shinsu-so hate. All those characters are just such a headache to work with. Za, ji. So she becomes ji. Then su becomes zu. Se becomes ze. Ze. And then zo. Gotta make sure we have those markings there, though. God, there is this. The next English word is. I'm holding back. There's a word I can make, but I'm gonna refrain from doing it. Because it will make me scream in a very passionate way. But maybe at the end of the stream, I'll get back to that one. So, a word we can create with these characters now, an English word. Let's see. Wow, I should have thought of these better. I like had the first two down, and I don't think I wrote down the rest of what I wanted to do. So we can do Suku. We'll do. So if we wanted to get really silly here, we could do Su. Like maybe you were writing an English character saying words, but you wanted it to be readable to Japanese people. You would literally write out the word soon as su, And unlike in hiragana, we have this symbol here, this like horizontal dash symbol. That just extends the vowel. Soon. Or soon. So coming soon. Coming soon. The end sound is there. Soon. More frequently, you'll usually see katakana used for like people's names, especially like foreigners' names. Like I think in the Genki book, you see the name Su a lot, which is literally just Su, S like the Su and then the dash mark after it, because you know it's an easy name to write out. Like how like a lot of books will use like Tomu for Tom, because again, very simple names. Bobu for Bob. So let's. I did it again. I put them on the same layer. Ah. You get over there. And we'll put you over here. I will merge these layers. There we go. And then we can shrink this down as we continue our table. So we got a, I, u, e, o, kakiku, keiko, sashi, su, se, so. And we'll put it over here for reference. Just put it in the corner there. The next one, the T sounds. We have Tachitsude to. Make a new layer this time. Don't forget, don't be a dummy. So we have. This one is kind of similar to ku, but you'll see we do these same strokes. And then we write a little boop in the middle. That's ta. Not to be confused with ku. Then we have chi. So chi. It's a little back and forth, like you go from right to left and left to right. Oh, hey, Z Spider Monkey 2301. Get the hell out of my chat. We don't need to be getting famous here. I am just a humble teacher. I need not to see those messages. Ta. Chi. Su. we go down. So again, keep in mind how tsu looks compared to shi. You could see shi, they're more horizontal, the markings, but tsu, the markings go more downwards. Tsu. Then we have te. And then we have to. And then again, if we put those muddling sound markers there, we get da. We get blank, blank, blank. We get z, d-z-i, z. And then we get down, down. Whoop. We get z, z. And then we get de. And then we get do. Da, zi, zu, de, do. So that's how those characters get transformed. Again, ta, chi, tsu, te, to.
Ta, chi, tsu, te, to.
And a word we can write with this now, with everything that we've learned so far. We can write, like, say you're like playing a fighting game, or like you're watching a boxing match, or you're watching like an MMA fight, and someone gets rocked, someone gets hit real hard. You can write da, u. You do u. Down. Down. So that means, like, you know, like a knockdown, you know, like someone's fall over. I just realized I had my pointer on the whole time. Uh-oh. Let's clear that out of the way. So, down. Or just down. You can also just use it for the direction down as well. But I feel like it's a very drastic way of saying someone got knocked over. So just another case of English word being translated into Japanese word, or being said in Japanese syllabary. It's like interesting to see how their syllables sort of like turn into our words. So the next one we have, the next set of characters, this one doesn't have any transformation, so we can just write out the list without having to worry about any muddled sounds. We have N. And this one is na ni nu ne no. So we got na, the horizontal, very simple. Na, ni. I actually think it's interesting because ni, the katakana character, is the same as ni, the kanji for 2. And you can tell because it's just 2 dashes like that. 1, on the other hand, is just 1 dash like that. So it's an easy way to remember. I think ni is probably one of the easiest katakana characters to remember because of that. Ni. Then we have nu. Nu kind of looks like ta, but without the little hat at the top. Nu. It's like if you fuse together ku and nu, you get that ta character. Like they did the fusion dance. Nu, and then ne. Do that. Then we go down, and then diagonally. Ne, and then no. Boop. No. That's it. So, if I wanted to make another English word, let's say, like the number 9, you know, like Blaze Blue, the famous character 9 the Phantom, or like more commonly known, the English number 9 for the 9th number in the counting system, would be na, i, 9. I-N-E. Or I think it might also just count as the German word for no, 9. 999. That's the ends, and again, it doesn't have any syllable changes there, it doesn't have any consonant changes, so we can just keep it the way it is. However, the H line makes up for it by having 2 different possible syllable changes. And again, this is not any grammar stuff, this is all just alphabetical stuff. So if you're having a little trouble, just make sure you also, like after the lesson, take some time every now and then. I feel like even just like 30 minutes of practicing with flashcards to just remember the syllables goes a long way. I think it maybe took me 1 or 2 weeks to get down the Hiragana table, and then I spent about a week or 2 on the Katakana table and didn't fully commit it to memory. Sometimes there will be characters that I have to refer to, but I think it's been a while since I've had to do that. There might be some times where I misread though, so it is important to just keep on interacting with those characters, even if you have to go out of your way to like find uses of them. So now we have ha. I don't know why I did that capital H. E. E goes like this. The first one is that smaller line. E. That's the neatest he I've ever drawn, and that's because this is the only time that I've ever drawn it in the correct stroke order. I usually do it reverse. Fu. It's gonna be fu. He. And then ho. He, ho. Ha, he, fu, he, ho. So remember, in the H list, that there's no hu sound, it's just fu. But then, if we do that same muddled sound, it becomes ba. I just did it backwards. God damn it. B. This becomes boo. What did I just do there? There we go. Boo. Be. And then oh. And then, like I said, it has a dakten there, but we can also use a han dakten. This is the only consonant family that uses this. It is pa. P. You can see the difference is that the dakten is that it looks like a quotation mark, while the han dakten is that it's like a degree symbol. P, and then pu. Then we got he, and then we get ho. There's an entire Epic Games ad taking up the bottom right corner of my screen, but there we go. And a word that we can use, or an anime title that I'll use with these characters, now that we have this written out. Great anime title. We could do, what's happening with my pen? There we go. We could write out a famous anime with this. Bo. 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 Oh, these are all supposed to be, whoops, like that, and like that. Bo, 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 bo. I fit it in. It was, I was able to compress it. Bo, 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 you know? But very quality anime. Now that we learned this set of characters, we could write out this incredible anime title. Bo, bo, bo. Bo, bo, bo. You know, I saw this on Toonami every now and then when I was younger. I can't say that I ever watched enough to understand what was going on. It feels like every time I tuned in, it was just very incomprehensible in like the good way. It felt like watching WarioWare as a cartoon, like in cartoon format. Actually, now that I think about it, WarioWare would have been perfect for Nintendo to make into like a Saturday morning villain cartoon kind of thing. I wonder why they never went for that. They went for like Kirby, they went for F-Zero, which don't get me wrong, F-Zero is cool as hell. But also, WarioWare just seems like the kind of universe that would have been perfect for that kind of like Saturday morning cartoon style. Alright, what did I mess up this time? That. I messed up all of that. But that's alright. We'll just do this. And just this. And we'll minimize this as well, just so that we have space, again, to write more of the characters. We still have 4 more families to go through, but we're done with all the muddled consonants, so we'll have a lot more. So the space won't be on as much of a premium. wrong merge. Go. This is the merge we wanted. And let's shrink this down to size. There we go. And it's all fitting now. Getting all the characters that we need to know. Now we just have 4 more families, and 2 of them are pretty small. So, M. We've got Mamimu. So let's write that out on a new layer so we don't mess it up. So, Ma. We go like this. Ma. Mi is just Bwa, Bwa, Bwa. I'm very familiar. You might see this character a lot if you listen to a lot of Vocaloid, because obviously Hatsune Mi Ku. So you see this 3-stroke a lot. Mi Mu. We go down right, and then that's our second stroke. Mu. Me. We go downwards and across. Me. And then Mo is whoop whoop. And then Mo. Mamimu Mo. We can make a word like Pokemon Masters, the new hit, or not the new anymore. It's like what, 2 years old at this point. Ma su ta. Like Pokemon Master. Masuta. Or if you're like reading like some kind of Japanese VN and they're calling you master, but they're not saying Goshujin, they're saying master. Master. So that's another example of an English word turned into Japanese pronunciation. Way more syllables than we say master as opposed to master. That's the mas. Then we have the y's. The y's are not as populated, because like I said, there are some sounds like yi and ye were redundant because e and e sounded close enough as is. I've seen examples of like characters cheering where they say yay, but the way they write it out is like, instead of saying it like yay, it would be like yay. It'd be like written like this. Yay, which kind of sounds like yay, which I think is like really interesting that like they can just use these vowel sounds here to make the yay sound or the yes sound without like it being an actual character in the alphabet. So like that's why it pretty much got outdated, because it just wasn't necessary. They were able to make that sound without needing the actual character for it. So let's do this. Let me just make sure. We have ya, so we go horizontally, and then we go downwards. That's ya. You is you, and then yo, we go horizontal like that. Bwa bwa yo. So ya, you, yo, and we could make a sound like, let's see. I was gonna say yeet, but again, there's no yeet. If you want to say yeet, it would be yeet. Wait, what? How would you do that? Yeet. 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 Yeeto. It would be like this. Yeeto. Yito. Yito. We're teaching only the important stuff here. Yito. Oh, that's supposed to be an O. Yito. Let me fix that before. There we go. Yito. Let's cross that out. And then let's take a look at the R table. R table actually has 5 characters, like we saw in the Katakana Table. So we have Rari Rudero, Like that Metal Gear Solid thing, the Lali Lule Lo. I wonder if it was just read as Rari Duredo in the actual Japanese game. It probably was. I've never played Metal Gear Solid. I haven't played Metal Gear Solid, and I don't know anything about it, and at this point I'm too afraid to ask. I like know all the like iconic scenes from Metal Gear Solid, like the ocelots are proud creatures, or like the big fight at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4. But like I don't actually like. I've never actually played it because I'm really bad at stealth games. I'm like hideously bad at stealth. Like anytime you give me a stealth mission that you can accidentally fail and then have to play like a regular mission, I will almost 9 times out of 10 not do the stealth mission. Like when I played No More Heroes 2 and they had a joke stealth mission, I immediately got caught and just fought my way through it because I'm not doing stealth. I'm not dealing with that. So Dari Duredo. So with these characters, we can make the name of my favorite band. We got Yo, Ru, and then Shi, Ka. My favorite J-pop band would be Yorushika. Great band, great band, great band. Yorushika. Now we just have one more table to go through. And that table is the W's. Like I said last time, we're not gonna do we, and we're not gonna do we. These characters are not important. These characters do not see any use. They have pretty much also been outdated. So, we're gonna just look at wa, which is down like this. It's like the U character, but without the hat at the top. So just make sure you don't mix up your was and your us. And then wo. I feel like I don't see wo pretty frequently either, because the main time you see it is with in its hiragana form as a particle. But I feel like there's not many words, like English loanwords, that use the wo sound. The only one I can think of, the only time I can remember seeing this character is when I think about the late Wowaka, who is a Vocaloid producer. Wo. Wa. Who composed big songs like Rolling Girl. So, just as an example of using like katakana for other words or characters or names. So that is the katakana table. Again, there's also instances like in hiragana, or in hiragana where like sometimes we need to use a Y sound, like the ya, yu, yo. So like if I was talking about a character's name like Ryu from Street Fighter, and they were referring to his name as like a name, they might write it in katakana. So like you might see it written as the U. So you can see it's that smaller U. This would be the U. Or like, I'm trying to think. Let's see. Like if I was to write the English word shal, it would be written out as she, and then ya, sharu. This would be sharu. Or I think this would be shal. It might be sharu. Yeah, I think so. Let me just do that. Let me just make sure it's correct. It would be Control C. As I mentioned earlier, when we want to extend the sound of a vowel, we gotta write out this hyphen here. Sharu. Be sharu. In hiragana, when we want to extend a vowel sound, we simply just use the vowel character like a, I, u, e, o. But in katakana, when they want to extend a vowel, they simply just use a dash to represent that the vowel is being extended. Shall. You sharu not pasu. Shall. So it's the same rules. So let's like, ooh. A common one you hear a lot, like very like, boisterous characters, you'll hear them say like, it's this one. It's sho, sho, ta, i, mu. It's showtime. 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 Like a showdown, that would still be sho and then down. So, again, the Y sounds ya, yu, yo can also be turned into their like sort of like lowercase forms to attach that u, o sound onto pretty typically just the e's. Like the mi, like ri would become ryo, mi could become myo, pi, pyo, ni, nyo, zi, do, chi, cho, and so on and so forth. Those E sounds are what get attached to the ya. Because like E and ya, like I and Y have very similar sounding vowels, so that's why those are the ones that get attached to those lowercase y sounds. So that's really all there is to the katakana table. If anyone in the chat has any questions, anything that I've gone over that they would like me to go over again, feel free to speak up. Because that's really what I wanted to go over first. That's like the first part of this lesson. The second part of the lesson is just something I want to talk about because it's very common. A common thing that I hear is just about how daunting kanji is, learning like words and stuff. But I just want to like do a little bit of a lesson, a little bit of a talk about like why kanji really isn't that bad. It's daunting, and I definitely get why like it scares a lot of people off, but I don't think it's as bad as like a lot of people make it out to be. I'm gonna just drink my coffee a little bit, but let's just finish up this table, just so that I have something nice to screenshot. Gotta be able to share with the world in a more easy to digest manner. Let's see. Let's also erase this. Get this out of here so I have something smaller to work with. And let's shrink this down to size. There we go. Looks neat and tidy. So those are our katakana characters. We wrote all the characters. I hope you guys at home all also wrote it down. And let's take a look now. I want to talk about kanji a little bit. So, hiragana and katakana. Let's pull these tables up again. Hiragana and where's my other layer? Layer 3, 5. There we go. So these, like I mentioned, these simply are just the syllables in the language. All the syllables that they use in this language. And they're just used to like write out the words, the phonetics of the words. Kanji, on the other hand, is the actual words themselves. Characters that have specific meaning. And I think a big important thing to consider that we have to think about in like the English language is that how we do things in English isn't that far off. You've never seen we? Yeah, no one's ever seen we, no one's ever seen we, and we'll keep it that way. We just ignore these characters because no one uses them. We and we are actually both very outdated characters. They just sort of did have a purpose at one point, but then they just realized that society no longer has any need for we and we. No more we. Society has progressed past the need for we and we. So, like, we think about English words, right? We think about, like, I can just write down a word right now. Let's say, you know, fire truck. On its own, just looking at this, yeah, there's no reason for a keyboard to have it in this day and age because there wouldn't really be any reason that you'd be, like, looking for it unless you were probably, like, reading, like, authentic old texts. They might have those characters, probably. I don't even know that, because I don't know how, like, old Japanese texts work. But, again, when we look at, like, characters, just English characters, nothing about reading this word tells me what it means. I would have to know, personally, that fire and truck are two words, and that those mean something. I would also have to realize that this doesn't mean a truck that uses fires. I would need to know that like fire, hot, burning. burning. And a truck is a big wheeled vehicle. Like, that's all I would know. I need to know the words fire and truck to understand what this means. And that's like the same thing with kanji. If you recognize a kanji, you can pretty much glean information about what those words, how those words interact, and how their symbols relate to the actual real world. And also, a fire truck isn't a truck that's on fire. A fire truck is used a truck that sprays a lot of water and has a very tall ladder. A tall ladder. It's not that it's a truck on fire, but a truck used for saving people in fires. It's like, that's a thing. We know that fire and truck can be two different words. But like, if you're someone who English isn't their first language, you might think that a fire truck is literally a truck that's on fire. And that's like the big thing, is that we have to approach these things like, we have to think about all the languages as if like someone just doesn't know the language at all. English isn't particularly much more helpful with understanding like new words when you see them. And there are always going to be like ways that we can sort of break things down to get an idea for what the words mean. I actually talked about this word when I did my my first ever Japanese stream. I talked about things like how we can break down certain words by their parts. We think about like a word like decompressing. So like a word like decompressing is split into three parts. We have our prefix, D, compress is our base word, and ing, that's our suffix. So D is the prefix, and it really is just like it's negating, or it's the opposite. Negates, opposite. Compress, to compress something, it's obviously just to squeeze or tighten. And ing is a state of being. Suffix, it just tells us that it represents an action that is happening. State of being represents action. The ing suffix always talks about like action, things that are happening. So if you break this all together, decompressing means that something that is in the process of being loosened, something that the pressure is being removed from it. But that would require you to know the language, to know each individual part to infer that meaning. Kanji is similar in a way. Once we just learn what each of the kanji means, that's when we could sort of break things down in a way that is more understandable to us. So, a big thing about kanji, though, is that they have a lot of different meanings. Let's think about, like, English, right? I'm gonna put this word on the board. And just think out loud to yourself, or think in your head, how would you pronounce this word here? How would it be pronounced? Now I want you to think, did you read it as read, or was it read in your mind as read? It's a homophone, obviously. English has a couple of homophones, and that's normal, you know? There's so many words in the language that things are bound to end up sounding the same as other words, or words are going to have different readings to them. Japanese is similar in that aspect. We talked about it last week, but a character like this can represent the sun, can represent day, and it has readings like hi, nichi, jitsu. Sometimes you'll see it read as bi. It has a couple of different readings depending on the context, and it's another one of those cases where it's just a matter of strengthening your vocabulary. English we already have such a strong, or a lot of us have a strong foundation in, So these words come second nature to us. But even like just spending a couple of like moments every day just practicing reviewing your vocab and grammar, you'll soon see like what combinations of this character with other kanji will give it certain pronunciations. There's like some obvious ones like if I have like Sunday, like, oh, actually this is a mean one to write down. This is the word for Sunday, nichi, and then it is, I believe the character is like this. It is nichi yobi. I don't know why the days of the week have such a complex kanji for something so simple as the day of the week. Nichi yobi. You can see even a character like this that has the same kanji appearing in it twice is nichi yo. That looks like a G, not a Y. Nichi yobi. Because this means sun. This is a representation of the sun. This is a representation of the day. So it's using the same symbol because it has multiple meanings. So Nichiyobi is Sunday. Similarly, if I did the following, this, and I don't expect you guys to be like copying like these directly down because these kanji are a little complicated to write, but I just want to use these as examples because they're very common things that you'll see. This is Getsu Yobi, and that's Monday. Getsu Yobi is Monday. Which I think is kind of cool because Getsu is actually moon. So it's kind of like Moon Day. But again, kanji has a bunch of different meaning to it, and that's fine. That's just how the language works. It's just a matter of understanding where that comes from. I want to talk about, I have a couple of characters here. I have a couple of kanji that I want to go through just to mention certain aspects. Let's go, actually, I can just make a new layer. So, when we talk about kanji, when you study, if you plan on studying like kanji and words like that, you'll see that these things have different readings. There's two different readings typically. Readings for kanji. You'll see that there's always going to be at least two readings. There's some that don't, but for the most part, most characters will have at least two different readings. And that is the onyomi, which is the original Chinese pronunciation. Because if you remember, the kanji characters were all taken from Chinese, so along with them came their readings. But then we also have the kunyomi, which is the Japanese readings. Pronunciation. I'm going to use a very simple word, a very common word, and that word is time. So the character for time looks like this. It's the character for time, and it's also the character to represent hours. So it's going to look something like this. This is time. This is time, or hour. And the two readings it has are this, or the two common readings it has. The onyomi is read as G, while the kunyomi, if you've watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you might be familiar with this word, would be toki. Think about how Dio Brando says, Toki wa tomare. Time has stopped. Sorry. So that's toki. So, when will you see one or the other? Onyomi. Onyomi you usually see. Typically used in compound words. So there's a more formal name for this, but I will just refer to it as compound words just so we have that language connection there. When you combine two kanji together and make like a new word from those two kanji, you'll typically be using the onyomi reading for that. For example, the character for time matched along with the character for... what is this? Time and... wait, I wrote these in my book, but I didn't actually write the readings for this, and now I'm not sure. We'll do this one. So this is G. This is time. And then this is the kanji for period. So this is time, period. And this becomes G dai. And this is it's pretty intuitive. It says time period, and it's very commonly translated as era, Jidai, time period. I know, like, there's a popular song out there called Shonen Jidai, which they translate to boyhood, but it's like, it just represents a period of time. Era is one translation, but it just represents that kind of span of time. And you can see, instead of like being like Tokidai, it's Jidai. It uses that Chinese reading. That's usually when you'll see it, when it's combined with other kanji. It's not always the case, but very often it is the case. Like, if you were to take a guess, you'd almost usually be right with that assumption. You'll usually see, when you see this kanji alone, it's almost always going to be pronounced as Toki. But like, if you see it with like numbers and something, that usually refers to like the time of day. Like if I said like Ichi, like something like this, Ichiji, that would be 1 o'clock. So it's just a matter of like understanding that new vocabulary. And the thing is that, like, as English speakers, when we're learning languages like German or Spanish or stuff, there'll sometimes be like common like phrases or words that you could see like have sort of a carryover from one language to another. The hardest part about Japanese is the fact that a lot of this kanji, there's not really any of that carryover. Things don't have direct translations like they do in English to other languages. We kind of just have to learn a new set of vocabulary, a new set of characters, all from scratch. And it's daunting. There's like 2,000 kanji you're expected to know to be able to like read the newspaper, and 2,000 is a lot, but it's definitely something that you can work at, something that you can do as long as you just have the patience and the diligence for it. You use a application like Wanikani or Anki and have it throw those practices at you every few hours, and you'll learn a lot that in a span of time that you probably didn't expect to learn. Like the amount I learned when I was like very diligently on my reviews and practices and doing my lessons on Wanikani, I gained a very big supply of kanji under my belt pretty quickly. And the only reason why I haven't been learning quickly is because I haven't taken the time to continue practicing. But, you know, sometimes you just gotta get into a right groove. Once you getting into a habit, it's really like the hardest part. It's so easy to fall out of it, but if you're into that habit, it becomes just something that is routine and that you'll be able to do every day. So then I wanted to just talk about some other compound words. You know, we have these, but just to get an idea of how like words in Japanese work, how they sort of like build things together, let's talk about the following. Because we have compound words in English that don't make sense. Like, let's say I show the word cherry picking. It's a word you see used a lot in like arguments and stuff. They'll say this word here that they're just cherry picking arguments. Cherry picking. What are those apps? Oh, the apps I mentioned for kanji practice. So, Hanji practice apps. I'm gonna recommend Anki first because that's like the one that a lot of people use. Anki is you can find different decks for this program. So it's a customizable flashcard app. Both these will use the SRS. Pineapple. Yeah, pineapple's also a good one. It's not a spiky apple. It's not a spiky apple at all. It's not even shaped like an apple. And Wanikani is not customizable. It's just flashcard app. Levels are set. I don't like thinking for myself, so I use Wanikani personally. You have to pay for Wanikani, though. It's like, I believe it's a $15 per month subscription. Or I think it might be less than that. I think it might be $5 per month. But both of these, both apps use, I can't spell. Why am I teaching Japanese if I can't even write in English? Use SRS spaced, I believe it stands for spaced repetition system for study. So what the spaced repetition system is that you learn a word, wait, it's about 3 hours for the first one, 3 hours. Then you just write out the word. Write word again. You wait more. Oh, I just realized that doesn't fit. So we write our word again. Wait a longer amount of time. Write again. Repeat. And this process goes on multiple times. It'll give you like different levels, like once you've done it enough times, it'll eventually say that you've burned it into your memory. That I think the last set they do is like, it'll be like several weeks before you get the word again. Because it's supposed to be, the idea is that you learn the word, they give you an amount of time for it to sit in your head, you come back to it, you write it out again. You wait a little bit longer, so that it just cooks longer in your brain, and you write it again. It's to sort of reinforce that you're learning it over a period of time. And I think it's a very useful way. It helps me a lot to just recognize characters, just by like spacing out how often I see it. So either of these work. Wanikani is not free, or it's free up to level 5. Free until level 5. Free. So that's the choice. Wanikani is just, it's all set automatically. You don't have to like go out to find flashcard decks. You just use it. Anki has like decks for specific purposes, like if you want to do the N5. It actually makes more sense than cramming my... Exactly. That's why the SRS is so good. Because when you space out how often you study something, it gives you that downtime instead of just cramming everything. And that's like part of the reason why a lot of teachers will stress that you study every night, but like not cram, because cramming's a good way for something to just be stuck in your brain for a short amount of time then fly out. But like, say you're taking a lesson in school, right? Like you're learning a new lesson and the test is in 2 weeks. if you spend maybe like 20 minutes reviewing the material every night, it's gonna be a lot more useful than just cramming the night before and then you forget it after you take the test. So, that being said, I recommend both of these. I've used Wanikani a lot, and I know a lot of people who have used Anki. They're both very good resources. So yeah, back to this word here, cherry picking. Cherry is a fruit. Picking means to, gather off a plant. But quite literal, when we say we're cherry picking, we don't mean we're gathering fruit off of a tree or a bush. We are nitpicking, we are pinpointing a specific piece. Specific part of an argument. So that's like really what it is. Like this compound word doesn't tell us anything about what the word means. And pinpointing doesn't either. Pinpointing, a pin is a very sharp object. A point is just to point at something. So pinpointing something means that you're pointing at something very, very, very specific. And again, it's just, these compound words don't always make sense. So that's why I want to point out some compound words that you'll see in Japanese that also might not make sense, but like you could think of like certain ways to sort of understand why it is the way it is. For example, let's do this one. This one's actually pretty obvious. This is the kanji for... Wait, not that. This is a kanji for next. That's next. Looks like this. This is next. And this is... We draw it like this. It's a counter for occurrences. Or occurrences. And can also be used to represent times. Like the amount of time something has been done. And then when you combine these together, it becomes something you might have seen in a lot of anime. Like if you're watching the ending sequence and you like listen to that narration, this becomes next time. This one's pretty intuitive because again, this one means next. This one means the counter for occurrences or time something has happened. So next time, jikai, which would be ji, kai, ji, kai, jikai. I can't in my head do a Japanese next episode on blank. But they'll usually just like jikai and then like the anime title, like jikai, Deku punches a tree in half. The next one. This one is sort of intuitive, but it's not as obvious. I think if you were doing your inferencing, if you had good inferencing skills, you could probably figure this one out. This one is rest. Rest. And then again, that good old day kanji. So if we combine these together, what is it called when you have a rest day? When you're on a day with a break? We put these together, rest day becomes holiday. So that's renjitsu. That's not renjitsu. I don't think it's yasujitsu. So, one story is that it was a couple weeks ago someone had come into my chat and greeted me in Japanese, and I knew what they were saying. I was able to get the meaning of what they were saying, roughly. But, I messed up the reading of the kanji, and it's been so long since I've been reading kanji. I could tell you what things mean when I see them next to each other, but, I think I've lost a lot of my actual, like, reading what they actually say. This isn't Renjitsu. Renjitsu is, like, consecutive days. It's not Yasu. It's not Yasujitsu either. I'm gonna look this one up just to make sure I can at least tell you what this reads as. So, Jisho. Also, yeah, jisho.org is probably one of the best resources you could use for a dictionary. I would highly recommend it if you're trying to, like, figure out words. There's a lot of options that that Jisho has that you could use to your advantage. But it's not Renji, it's Kyujitsu. Kyujitsu. That would be Q. Kyujitsu. Kyujitsu. That's holiday. So, it's pretty understandable, you know, it's a day that you're taking off, it's a resting day, it's a holiday. This next one is a little bit more obtuse, but I think you can still figure it out. Yes, Google Lens is also really useful for things that, like, you can't copy and paste. You know, you have, like, a label, you can't copy and paste that, but you can Google Lens it. Very helpful. And then you use that, and then you also with Deep L. Ooh, it's a wrap. You can understand anything. Who needs these lessons when you have Deep L? So this is the kanji for bright, which is interesting because, you know, there's, like, kanji within kanji. You could see that this is a character for day and moon, which is interesting. Like, moon and day combined is bright. Bright, and then day. Say day. This becomes, when we fuse them together, it becomes tomorrow. Ashita. Mata ashita. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow. Ashita. Or, as we would write it in hiragana, ashita. Ashita. So yeah. And this last one is going to be a doozy. It's one that you'll see on a lot of people's Twitter bios, a lot of people who say that they're studying Japanese. You'll see this character, this compound word a lot. And that is... Let's do this. This one's pretty complicated to write out too. I feel like every time I write this out, I actually, like, this kanji ends up being, like, wider than the other kanji that I write out. So this is exertion. This is this kanji over here is for strength. strength. So exertion and strength. When you combine these two together, you get the word or... Let's just write this out. You'd think I would copy and paste, but no. I'm writing out every kanji every time. So this is strength. And when you exert your strength, you know, you'd think it'd be like you're mustering up a lot of power. No, this is study. Honestly, when you're studying, it does feel like you're using up a lot of energy. This is benkyo or benkyo. Benkyo. So that's studying. So that's just some examples of, like, compound words and how they exist in Japanese compared to English, you know? They might seem nonsensical, but really it's just a matter of studying your words, studying your vocab, and just getting a bigger grasp on that. And it's like interesting. There's a lot of people who like approach the language differently. Some people like do a lot of grammar practice. Some people will do a lot of kanji practice. I personally like went with a super hard focus on kanji because I thought it was like easier to do in smaller bursts. I feel like I had to commit a lot to sit down and do a grammar lesson, but with Wanikani, it made learning like a couple of kanji at a time pretty easy. So that's why I got as far as I did in Wanikani in such a short period of time, but I'm always just so on and off with it. That's really all I wanted to talk about today, just do more of an exploration on why like kanji is the way it is. It's not like some sort of scary, big, daunting monster. It's just words. And we learn words all the time, you know? We speak English all the time, and it just makes sense because we spent a lot of time learning it and speaking it. But it's just another thing that we have to learn to speak if you just really want to learn it, if you want to understand. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. That's the whole lesson. You know, we got a good 80 minutes. It's kind of like teaching a class at the academy. The same kind of class time, except I'm talking the whole time instead of talking on and off. So, that is all the writing system. We talked about kanji, we talked about hiragana and katakana, and now, using these tables, we're going to start going into grammar lessons next week. We're going to go very easy. We're going to form some basic sentences and talk about very, very, very basic particles. So hopefully if you're ready for that, if you're ready to learn some grammar, we're going to go easy. The first few lessons aren't super hard, so it's probably the best time to get into it, is just because they're very easily translatable concepts back to English, what we start off with, and then it'll ramp up after the first couple of weeks. So, I hope you guys all had a good time. I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson, and I'll see you next week. Now we have to see who's online. Who can we send a raid over to? Who can we pay a visit to? Let's see. Who's online to twitch.tv right now? So, let's see. Let's go pay a visit to... Let's go pay a visit to this guy, Desertorium. He's a VTuber that I saw popping around, and he's playing a good game. He's doing 100% new save file. He's playing Binding of Isaac, which is one of my favorite games. Let's go raid Desertorium. He's got a really cool model too, and he self-made it he made it all on his own, which I think is really neat. So, thank you guys all for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'll see you next week. Class is dismissed.